As I'm climbing this hill to get to this knoll, I'm accepting the invitation into a language I've not heard before. It's the language of the trees and of the forest. It's not words. It's not physical. It's not emotional. It's not a mental thing. It's a language of energy. It doesn't come through as words in our conscious brain. Can feel it. As I got to this particular knoll, there was a natural disaster here like 100 years ago. And these trees, like that one behind me, they're all around here like this. They got damaged. There was this damage here, and then all these trees are about 100 years old like this. They're all growing. There's one over there. And they're beautiful. As I got to the crest of this knoll, the energy became quiet. Became still, not quiet. And now I hear a clear frequency ringing through the trees that was not here before I got to this knoll. I feel the pain that came through here 100 years ago. I felt coming up the hill the invitation by the trees and the leaves, inviting me to come here, welcoming me. And they told me they've been healing me with divine feminine energy for quite some time. As I crossed over the threshold to this knoll, I realized they've been healing me to prepare me so that I was able to interact with them energetically and give them healing frequencies back. I'm truly honored and humbled. I was actually in the same place April 21st. So I was coming back the other way, the only time I've ever been to this spot. I was with my friend Laura. She sensed a bear was in the area and we were not welcome here. So we kind of hightailed it out of here. I was just following her intuitive lead. We saw bear droppings that were fresh on the way out, so I validated that. I didn't remember until I was on the way up here about that story, and I'm coming back the opposite way. Up the trail, it does a loop, so I'm coming up the opposite way. I don't recognize, this side of everything on my way in. And I realized what I was doing was listening to the forest. Was it inviting me back? Was I welcome here? Because in April, I really wasn't welcome. I didn't know the language. I wasn't ready. So I was sent out by this nearby bear. So today I got the opportunity to trust and step through a component of fear that maybe this bear's in this area all the time and it's here. And the trees made me feel welcome and safe. Like this one. It's welcoming me. It's literally hugging me. It's wrapping its branches all around this cocoon. There's sunshine. Ocean of Tears. As the divine masculine completed his inner healing process, cut all energetic ties that were not pure, and canceled all past life vows that did not serve his sole purpose, he was also completing a sanctification process, observing and resisting all the fleeting temptations, his demons, that the world presented to him. To his surprise and delight, he was then handed the code to immortality. He realized he just completed the final task, and the code to immortality was his graduation ceremony, his reward. He'd been made ready. With trust and surrender, he received the code, and it activated his DNA, which then allowed him to hear and receive the magnetically energized invitation by the gatekeeper to enter the Stargate. That's where she came to him. She was waiting for him to enter in that resonance. Once he had arrived, she felt his presence and she engaged. She came as a young maiden that felt physically weak and small. Her keen intuition guided her, though, to cautiously observe and energetically engage with him to some degree. She still, however, needed him to prove himself to her. As they talked and connected, it was then that she realized that his frequency was exactly the same as hers, and she truly recognized him because he was finally uncluttered and pure, full of light and love. She'd known him for countless lifetimes before, and it had been a long time since this magnetism had been realized in her. She boldly stepped through her fear and trusted him to receive her. As she did, he admired her for her courage because he recognized it. Although he was unsure of who she was, he was still receptive and full of wonder as he recognized her frequency too. Her approval and trust made him feel tall and strong, like a powerful masculine god. She was empowering him intentionally, as she could sense that he was trying to discover who she was and what she was. He considered maybe something like an earth angel, here for a specific purpose, but she was something different that he had not encountered in this incarnation yet. She asked to connect with him, and with this request, he was thrilled and excited and agreed. And in doing so, they traveled through the Stargate together, and he discovered that she was not small, nor was she weak. Circling, twisting, beautifully weaving all around her body, he saw her spirit and her aura and her luminous field all dancing together in a beautiful rainbow medley of powerful divine feminine energy that was multidimensional, full of love, grace, magic, compassion, and insight, and he was completely awestruck and overwhelmed with its beauty. Yet he could see that she'd been wandering and traveling for eons, trapped between two planes of existence. He then realized that she'd been guiding him, teaching him and allowing him to develop into the divine masculine grounding presence that she needed, that she had not had. His overwhelming amount of gratitude was immediately replaced with the sensation of feeling his feet connect to the ground, deep into the dirt, and spread out for 100 feet around him. He then felt the energy connect with him in every direction as far as the eyes could see. Then, through the power of all this energy, she guided him and lifted his hands out in front of him, out in front of his body, spread wide, and directed them to send all of this energy out through his fingertips. And he then saw two iridescent, razor-thin beams of purple love light pierce into her heart to heal her like a surgeon. The universe used this now pure energy as a conduit to heal her. They were now connected to everything, and they became everything. The maiden then transformed into the beautiful divine goddess and sat next to him and shared with him that she sees red and green fractals whenever she wants. She just conjures them up. They were her companions, her tools. He asked her to show him the fractals, and she agreed and brought him into that dimension. Once there, he saw that one of the fractals had the face of a powerful, loving, protective dragon, and he watched them as they slithered around like the tentacles of a squid and hollow like trees. The face of the dragon he recognized. Now he knew who she was. He then sat back next to the goddess, and he asked why the fractals were hollow, and she said she created them that way so that energy could flow through and those voids, and people could flow through them. She then stood up from the bench, and she prepared to depart. She said she had one thing to do first. She placed her hands in his and raised them together in a prayer symbol, and placed her face directly in front of his, with their hands joined between their faces. They locked eyes, and they loved each other in a way that neither of them had ever felt before. It was pure and direct and unencumbered. And then she gave him an ancient secret, a sacred energy gift that he would decipher at some later time, he knew. As she began to walk away, one of her fractals reached back and attached itself to a hook in the ground in front of him that connected to his divine masculine energy. This was now her anchor, her home, grounded to him and to the earth. Not only had he made space for her, he also made the entire earth her home, to which she could now be freely anchored, yet not constrained. He knew she was now able to transition to the next plane of existence, to step fully into her sole purpose. He knew she would now be traveling all around the cosmos, healing, teaching, guiding and loving, multidimensionally, free and independently, yet always anchored to his divine masculine presence, unconditional, his grounding love energy, and she could always come back to connect deeper in love and rest and recharge with him whenever she was so inclined. He knew now that the most vital part of his soul mission was to maintain a sacred space in the garden for her to return to, and always keep the grounding energy intact, and always be waiting with open arms. Accepting this awareness, he then made a vow to himself and to them to do so. As this mutual metamorphosis took place, he was also briefly visited by a vision in the clouds of a previous divine masculine presence that had been a karmic companion to the maiden. The man in the clouds tipped his hat to him and smiled pleasingly, giving his approval of a job well done, and he released his energetic presence he'd had with the maiden so that the now goddess could be connected to the man and unencumbered to serve her sole purpose. Mutual respect was now felt between the both men. As the goddess made her way off to her mission, the stargate began to slowly close, and in doing so, he felt a strong energy flowing like a wind coming from the direction the goddess was leaving from, and it blew across the ground and up the front side of him. It kept flowing and flowing, and he received it openly and let it flow and flow, and he knew it was from the goddess giving her love to him. This energy was like a green flowing river of ecstasy, strong and powerful yet comfortable, and he knew it would be with him forever, making him feel content, satisfied, grateful, and complete. As the stargate finished gently closing, he stayed sitting on the bench, basking in the experience for quite some time, and to fully recall it, because he didn't want to forget one moment of it. He looked out over the ocean, watching the ships float by at night. It was like a beautiful canvas in motion that was being continually painted by the gods for him. The ocean was made of tears that the two had shed in longing for each other during the times that they were apart. These salty oceanic tears heal all wounds for them and for everyone and everything. The ocean of tears was unconditional love, stretching all around the world, supporting all the vessels on their journeys and their missions with love. Everything was beautiful. Everything was them, the god and the goddess, everywhere he looked. Everything was love and everything was one.